Well, I'm just doing a follow-up video trying to explain the cost of transportation. I've got a previous video on that goes more in depth, but you'll hear me say that on average, give or take, the cost of transportation can be about $1.25 a mile. Sometimes that's just someone could do that as a VIP run. That could be if they've only got one pet on board. It varies depending on the driver's overhead. If they've got multiple animals on board, they can charge less. If they got to deal with a breeder, it's a highly subjective thing, and everyone operates their business differently, and everyone's quality and overhead's different. So what I'm explaining here is I want to compare what a driver makes versus an hourly worker, so I can kind of break down why we charge the way we charge it. And this is just a rough thing. You have to keep an account of maintenance, mechanical, everything that goes into owning a business. And this is basically how I could break it down to try to give you an understanding as an hourly worker. So most transporters, they go about a 500 to 600 mile day. When you start including stops like breaks, helping the puppy, if you've got a puppy or walking the dog or getting gas or food or whatnot, usually my car has a computer in it that will tell me, but it goes around about 50 miles per hour. So that's typically a 12-hour day. Now, obviously, if you've got like road construction, bad weather, or whatnot, it will be more or less. This is just a rough idea. So the federal standard mileage rate for business, or basically what you can write off or charge, is 58.5 cents a mile. And when you multiply that by 600 miles, you're looking at about a 351. And that's what the federal government thinks that your operating overhead maintenance expense is, or my interpretation of it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm just trying to use a rough estimate on that. Let's say the median wage taxi cab drivers I've seen, I mean, if we're doing taxi cab, $15 to $17 an hour, I've seen it more or less, but we'll just do a standard 15. And we'll do it based on, 8-hour day plus 4 hours OT, which comes out to be like $315. Oh, sorry, OT. So $210. Well, that's subjective too, because let's say the average driver drives, I work 100 to 110 hours, and that's, even more than that if you include the overnights where I have to wake up at the middle of the night to take care of your dog, or any other miscellaneous things that are outside the set 12 hours of straight on the road. And that's just an estimate. I mean, if we're starting at like a normal day, but what if you're a driver towards the end of the week, like an hourly worker, and you've already hit your 40 hours, so you're really making $22.50 an hour, but I'm just trying to make it fair in a way that you can kind of get an understanding of the breakdowns. So when you add the mileage rate, the federal mileage rate, and when you add the per hour rate, it ends up coming into about 93 cents a mile. But when you start factoring any miscellaneous stuff like, hey, is there an overnight, different overhead or whatnot, you factor in all the little stuff, it ends up being about $1.25, like I said. And let's say you're just doing one transport. Like I said, we can break it up, but that just gives you a better understanding of how we price our stuff. And if you as an hourly worker are expected to get paid what you're worth, then that's how we're looking at. But you gotta understand, if we're charging you $1.25 a mile, it's not pure profit. Our overhead, that number is a lot smaller when you start adding in what it costs to maintain our vehicles to do our job and how many hours we put into it. So just try to get a better understanding of it, because a lot of people, it's a very misunderstood thing, and people are like, well, why do you charge so much? Well, you see why semi trucks charge so much now.